Sup nerds, today we're going to be reviewing EX4 since it's about to drop this weekend. We have a 5-point rating system. Starting off, we got Missamon, on deletion if you have a Digimon in play, draw 1. It also has blue flare gun traits, all that stuff. Clearly blue flare support, there is blue flare support in the rest of the set. There's a decent chance this will replace the current Tama they use, although it might just end up being like the 5th Tama if they decide to run 5 Tamas. Next we got Kokomon. Your turn, once per turn, when an effect suspends one of your Digimon, draw 1. I feel like there's a decent chance this is going to replace the Tamas that you would run in Bloomlord. Yeah, I think it's just Bloomlord, which is plant fairy deck. Green is inherently inconsistent, it always has been, that's its biggest weakness. And drawing cards is definitely going to help with that. So that's probably going to be a replacement, which is pretty cool. That's good for green to get support. They haven't been tier 1 since, I don't know, probably ever. And Tsunamon, this is the Tama for the new Alter S deck. It's your turn, once per turn, one of your other Digimon digivolves. Draw 1. It does specify in play, although I feel like that's just for clarification for people that don't understand how that works. So obviously this would not cover something in the raising area, but unless it specified it was referring to the raising area, it wouldn't be looking at that anyway. The raising area is an invisible zone, essentially, that nothing can interact with unless it specifically says it does. So the in play is unnecessary wording, but it's probably just for clarification for newer players. Tsunamon is, I mean, it's probably necessary. Because that Alter S deck is like legitimately like a 10 card combo, and drawing cards would help. Honestly, it would be pretty sick if this wasn't once per turn. I think that's probably what that deck needs, is like just draw. Like that would probably let them hit their win condition a little more often. So I would say this is probably a 3. Missamon's probably 4. Kokomon is 4. Tsunamon's, I would say, a 3. And on to our next ones. We have Pinamon. I think I'm saying that right. On deletion, if this Digimon was deleted other than by battle, gain 1 memory. It's super mid. I would say that's a 2. Like, it could borderline be a 3, but I just feel like, I don't know. The gaining the memory is cool, but the fact that it specifies it cannot die by battle. So that means if you check security, that counts as a battle. So if it dies to a security check, you don't gain the memory either. That's pretty mid, I'm gonna be honest. There's probably like it's between a 2 and a 3. I'd give it a 2.5. You can probably play this and stuff, but their purple is probably gonna have a better option as far as the Tom is concerned. It's probably Demi-Miramon, LOL. As it has been for the past like ever. Next on to our rookies. Agumon. This is our hashtag Shine Greymon support. This is our 2nd wave, I believe, and we will get a 3rd wave in BT13. Can't wait. It's a 3 cost, 2000 DP Digimon, Evos on red and yellow for 1, or Evos on Koromon for 0. Start of your main phase, if you have a red or yellow Tamer in play, gain 1 memory. That's pretty sick. That basically counteracts the 1 memory you pay for Marcus Damon's effects to come into play. As a Digimon for the turn. That's pretty nice, being able to counteract that. Also, the fact that this is just a dinosaur with Agumon in its name is honestly the best part of it. And just being yellow-red's pretty sick, or red-yellow, whatever. The inheritable, though, is very good. Your turn, once per turn, when your red or yellow Tamer becomes suspended, draw 1. Very easily to consistently trigger this. I would say this is definitely a 4. On to our Gilmon. It is a red-purple, Evos on red and purple for 1, or Digimon for 0, which is pretty sick. I really like the support. They've done like the archetype support for these things, like where they can Evo on like their respective archetypes for free, or free for the rookies and like cheaper for like level 5s and level 6s. I really like that, as well as the dual colors. I think dual colors are pretty sick too. It just opens up a lot of deck building. Anyways, off my tangent. On play, if both players' trashes contains 20 or more cards total, this Digimon gains Rush for the turn. This is an extremely good card. So let me explain why. So the fact that it gains Rush for the turn means that you can put this into play from one of your effects, have it gain Rush, and then you can Evo into something big, assuming you have the memory, or can just like warp Evo or something like that. And that's really big. Like, this will be a game ender for Gallantmon players for sure. I would say this is definitely a 4. It's honestly like the The potential for this to be broken is definitely there, especially with it being half purple. But for the time being, it's definitely 4. I would say this is a very solid card for Gallantmon decks. This is definitely going to replace one of your rookies. On to our champions. We have Geogreymon, red, yellow. Evos for 3 on red or yellow. But Evos for 2 on level 3 with Agumon and name and Dinosaur and traits. So that's all of your Shine Greymon, Agumons, as well as Agumon X Antibody, LOL. Agumon X Antibody is a dinosaur for those of you that don't know. The effect is start of your main phase. If you have a red or yellow tamer in play, gain 1 memory. So this is the exact same effect as Agumon, and the Inheritable is the exact same effect as Agumon. When your red or yellow tamer becomes suspended, draw 1. I would say he's probably like a 3-ish, 3.5. You're definitely running him because he's a Geogreymon. At this point, although I do think he gets outclassed next set. Solid addition to the archetype. On to Black Growlmon. Evos for 3 on red or purple, or 2 on top of Gilmon. When Digivolving, both players trash the top 2 cards of their decks. Then you may return 1 Gilmon or 1 Digimon card with Growlmon or Gallantmon in its name from your trash to your hand. That is really good. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a Gallantmon player mill their Crimson mode or check their Crimson mode in security, and then they literally just don't have access to it. But if they did, they'd be able to kill me. That will affect quite a bit. Obviously, they can grab basically anything in their deck besides their Tamer. But I think there's other cards that let them grab their Tamers. So like now they basically have access to everything in their trash, which is kind of scary, honestly. This is definitely a 4, I would say. This is a solid 4 without even getting into his Inheritable. He's a very good card, allowing you to grab all the stuff that you're dumping into your trash with all of your mill effects. And then on deletion, you may return 1 Gilmon or 1 Digimon card with Gallantmon or Gallantmon its name from your trash to your hand. So it's literally the same effect except for on deletion. Yes, this is a solid 4. This is a very good card for the archetype. On to our Rise Greymon. Spoilers, this one's pretty mid. Evos on red or yellow for 4. Digivolves for 3 off of Geogreymon specifically. So if we ever get Geogreymon X, which I know probably doesn't exist in the lore, he won't be able to do that. But when Digivolving, one of your opponent's Digimon and all of your opponent's security Digimon get minus 4,000 DP for the turn. Kind of mid, to be honest. Like the only good part about this Rise of Greymon, before I get into the Inheritable, is the fact that it's yellow, which lets you Evo into it for free off Marcus Damon. The minus 4k for Evoing into a level 5, this would have been good if it had been printed like, I don't know, what set are we on? Probably 7 sets ago, this would have been strong. But right now, that is kind of mid. So I would say this is like a 2.5 on our scale. Getting into the Inheritable. Your turn once per turn, when your red or yellow tamer becomes suspended, one of your opponent's Digimon and all of your opponent's security Digimon get minus 4,000 DP for the turn. If this wasn't once per turn, this would go from a 2.5 to like a 4.5. Unfortunately, it is once per turn. So yeah, this is like a 2.5 for me for sure. This gets outclassed by basically every Rise Greymon we've gotten up to this point. Like, I don't think you'd even play this in EX4. So actually rethinking it, yeah, it's a 2. The only good thing about this is the fact that it's a yellow Rise Greymon, which means you can Evo into it for free off of Marcus. Like, it's just kind of trash. Like, honestly, I'm talking myself into it more and more. This is not even probably a 2. This is probably never going to be played. So yeah, this is a 1. This is a 1. I talked myself into it, or out of rating this higher than it is. Yeah, this is a solid 1. Hashtag, why would they print this? This is inferior to basically every Rise Greymon we already have access to. The effects obviously are effects. It has effects, but they're trash. I don't think you even play this. Yeah. I think off the top of my head, of the Rise Greymons we have access to already, yeah, you wouldn't even play this. There's not even, you would not make room for this card, yeah. I've talked about it too much, it's trash. Anyway, Black War Growlmon, Evos for 4 Fofo on red or purple. And then Digivolves for 3 off of level 4 if the name contains Growlmon, which is pretty cool. That means Black Growlmon and Growlmon X Antibody, so it's pretty nice. I'm digging the artwork. He actually looks pretty sick. His effect is when Digivolving, both players trash the top 3 cards of their decks, then choose any number of your opponent's Digimon whose total DP adds up to 3,000 or less and delete them. For every... I lost my place. There's so many words on this card. Hold on. Let's just start over. When Digivolving, both players trash the top 3 cards of their decks, then choose any number of your opponent's Digimon whose total DP adds up to 3,000 or less and delete them. For every 10 cards in both players' trash combined, add 2,000 of the maximum DP you can choose with this effect. That is a mouthful. That's what she said. I feel like there's a better way to word this, honestly. Like, there's a lot of words to explain this effect, and I feel like they probably, if they'd thought about it for a little bit, they could have shortened this. This effect is really good. So baseline 3,000, and then for every 10 cards in both players' trash, you get to add 2. So you're milling 3. So if this isn't like turn 2, you're probably minimum popping 5k. But the mill that Gallantmon has access to, if you go into this like mid game, if you've already like been concentrating on milling, this could potentially like nuke an entire board, which is pretty sick. So I would give this a 4. This is definitely a very solid card for the archetype. On to Chaos Gallantmon. Evos for 4 on red and purple, or Evos for 3 on a level 5 if name contains War Growlmon. Very much appreciate that. I'm really liking all the Gallantmon support lines. Like, I think he's a cool Digimon. He just is kind of lackluster when you compare him to the X-Antibody decks that have, like, inherent protection. Like, you know, Greymon.deck or Garurumon.deck. But definitely a very cool Digimon, and I really like all the support he gets. So his effects are trash, end of your turn. So this will trigger in your trash at the end of your turn, obviously, but just to make that clear. By deleting one of your Digimon with Gallantmon in its name, with a Digivolution card, play this card without paying its memory cost. Pretty strong effect, especially when you consider the fact that there are a lot of Digimon that have Gallantmon in their name that also have on deletion effects. Which I'm specifically thinking of Megidramon. I guess that's not a lot, but like you could pop Megidramon from EX2 and he would play a Gallantmon, I believe. But yeah, on play, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 7,000 DP or less. For every 10 cards in both players' trash combined, add 2,000 to the maximum DP you can choose with this effect. This is a pretty cool effect. I feel like in order to play this card, you would have to be focusing on this mill strategy and playing like some number of Megidramons and stuff. Because otherwise, like, you're not really getting a whole lot of... I mean, you're able to delete stuff or something potentially, but you're losing like all of your inheritables from your other stack. So unless you're getting something else out of that deletion effect, you're probably not doing this. So yeah, this is definitely like a focus strategy, but I will give it a 3.5. On to Victory Greymon. Very excited, another Victory Greymon. I really liked the alt art from BT4 that we got. It's just sucked that his effect was just like kind of mid even when he came out. But he evos for 4 on level 5. Unfortunately, he doesn't evo for cheaper on his archetype. I don't even know what his archetype would be. I don't know what his line is. Maybe one of you guys can tell me in the comments. I'm not sure what he actually evos from like normally. But when Digivolving, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 6,000 DP or less. For each Digimon your opponent has in play, add 2,000 to the maximum DP you can choose with this effect. And then all turns, once per turn, when an opponent's Digimon is deleted, if you have a Tamer in play, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with the highest DP. So I'm kind of sad about this because, one, this is a really good effect. Like, this is really strong. You could definitely play this as a side mega in Greymon.deck. The only issue is the fact that it's not advancing your game state, which is your game plan in Greymon.deck is to reduce your opponent's security to 0 for red variants. And I really just don't think... Like, this is basically like a come from behind card, I think. The effects are really strong. Like, I'm going to give this a 4. I just wish we had gotten this like 5 sets ago. But this definitely can ruin someone's day. It deletes small bodies, and then deletes their biggest body, which is pretty sick. If they have 2 guys on the field, this could delete both of them as long as one of them is 8K or lower. Hold on. I'm rereading this. Unless this is mistranslated, which is possible. So it's deleting 1 Digimon with 6,000 DP or less. Then for each Digimon your opponent has in play at 2,000, the maximum DP you can choose this effect. So its default is 8,000 actually. Unless it's supposed to say for each other Digimon, like I don't know how you would word that to where like it would only count like the second Digimon and then start counting from there. So this defaults to 8K, which is funny because that was the deletion threshold for BT4 Victory Greymon, so that's probably deliberate. So this deletes an 8K. It's interesting how they worded this, but I guess there wasn't really a better way to do that. There's probably a better way to word that, but anyway. So this deletes an 8K, and then the biggest thing they have on the field by default. So if they have 2 Digimon, if one of them is 10K or lower, it's popping both of them. So actually, this is a really strong card. This is definitely a 4. Like, if we'd gotten this 5 sets ago, this would be a 5. But this is a very solid 4. I really want to have this as a side mega in future Greymon.decks because this effect is really good. Also, just whenever something is deleted, all turns once per turn, when one of your opponent's Digimon is deleted, it deletes the biggest thing. So, like, this would be kind of annoying to play around, honestly. So yeah, this is actually really broken. This is going to be really good if you guys play sealed for EX4. I know there's not an official pre-release, but I know my locals will sometimes do pre-release style sealed events for classic collections, or not classic collections, EX4 sets. And this guy will definitely be like MVP of your deck if you pull one. This is a really strong effect. I'm gonna move on though, because like the more and more I think about this, the stronger it seems. On to Medieval Gallantmon. I kind of said it weird the first time. Evo's on red or green for 4. Sadly does not have a reduced Evo on anything else. He has a security effect, which is pretty cool. We don't really get a lot of those anymore. Play this card without battling, without paying its memory cost. Return this Digimon to its owner's hand at the end of the turn. It starts off really cool. It has basically Omnimon's Word Defeats effect, where it just plays itself, but the trade-off is it doesn't battle. But the fact that it returns to your hand at the end of the turn is really, really, like, why couldn't they just let it stay on the field? Like, that's what I don't get. Like, you're gonna let defeat stay on the field, but like this, I mean, I get it has an on play. I'm gonna get to that, but like, I don't know. I feel like this card had the potential to be very good, and they were just like, nah. But his other effect is on play when attacking, so this would trigger when it played from its effect. Delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 6,000 DP or less. If no Digimon is deleted by this effect, suspend one of your opponent's Digimon, and that Digimon can't unsuspend during your opponent's next unsuspend phase. If this had stayed on the field, this would probably be approaching a 5, but unfortunately it does not stay on the field. It's a good effect, like in a vacuum, like this is definitely a 4, but the issue is, what would you play this in? It's not a Royal Knight, number 1, so you lose all Royal Knight support, and number 2, like the only benefit you would ever get from this card would be if it's in your security, and if you're running a red-green deck, how would you know it was in your security, or how would you manipulate your security? If one of these colors were yellow, this card would be a 5, a strong 5. Mostly for one reason I'll say in a second, but like, number 1, it would naturally fit into yellow decks where you could manipulate your security, you could tactical retreat it back into your security, stuff like that, little dumb things like that. Number 2, it's a warrior, and Lord Nightmon from BT5 would play it for free when attacking. That'd be pretty broken. This would definitely be a 5. Lord Nightmon currently does not have access to any megas it can play for free. But yeah, as it stands, this is like, it's like a 2.5. The opportunity cost is just too great. Like, you have better things to play in its place. If you were to play this, it quite potentially could win you a game or 2 randomly, but it would not offset the games you would lose because you were playing this over something better that you would draw on other games. So yeah, moving on. A Gaussmon. This is our blue flare rookie. Evos for 0 on top of a blue Tama. Cool. Your turn once per turn. When a card with blue flare in its traits is played, draw 1. That's pretty good. When you play a card with Twilight in its traits, return one card with a Digicross requirement from your trash to your hand. Just drawing a card is really good. People that have played Digicross decks, like that's the biggest thing, is maintaining hand advantage because you're not Digivolving most of the time. So this is probably going to be played in Blue Flare. Although I feel like if you're playing Twilight in Blue Flare, you're probably going to have a bad time. So the second part of this effect is probably never going to get triggered. So this is a 3. This is like, yeah, this is an okay card. Gaomon. On play, both players draw one card from their deck. I understand that Galmon's like whole shtick is making your opponent draw cards too, and like he gets benefits from that. And this is pretty cool. I mean, I'm sure I know it procs your Mirage Galgamon effect, and obviously you get to benefit from it because you get to draw a card. I don't know, just something about like giving your opponent advantages is like, I don't know, it's a double-edged sword for sure. But I know that it fits in the archetype. The inheritable is your turn once per turn. When an effect adds a card to your opponent's hand, gain 1 memory. For the archetype, this is probably 3.5. Yeah, like it's not super overpowered. It's not bad. It's just like okay. So yeah, I'd give it a 3.5. Greymon. Evos for 3 on blue or black. Effect is on play. Reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. Add 1 Kiriha, however you say that, and 1 blue or black card with a Digicross requirement from among them to your hand. Trash the rest. On deletion, save. And then the inheritable is when attacking, draw 1. That's not once per turn. That's pretty broken. Considering that they have ways of unsuspending in Blue Flare. Definitely seems to be a focus on maintaining hand advantage in Blue Flare decks and this support they're getting. I like the artwork on this guy. He looks like really angry. I'll say this is probably a 3.5. If it played the Kiriha, this would probably be like a 4.5. The fact that it adds it to your hand is kind of mid, because obviously you don't want the card in your hand. You want to be able to play the Kiriha from your memory boost in Blue Flare. And I feel like it'd honestly be better if it just left the Kiriha in your deck so you could potentially play it out from your memory boost. It's kind of funny, adding it to your hand, I think, makes it actually a little bit worse. But yeah, this is 3.5. This is a pretty good card. Galgamon. When Digivolving, return one of your opponent's level 3 Digimon to its owner's hand. Meh. Super meh effect. This would have been good in, like, 1.5 format. Inheritable is your turn once per turn. When effect adds a card to your opponent's hand, gain 1 memory. Same inheritable as the rookie. This is a 3. This is a solid 3. The inheritable is what pushes it to a 3, otherwise it'd probably be like a 2.5, maybe even a 2. Returning like memory blockers and like evo reduction blockers and stuff to people's hands is pretty cool, especially in blue because you have so much memory gain. But this effect is something I would expect to read on a card that we got in like the first like 4 to 5 sets of the game. It's just kind of underwhelming, but I'll give it a 3 just because of the inheritable. Male Birdramon. On play, one of your opponent's Digimon at the lowest level gains. When attacking, lose 2 memory until the end of your opponent's turn. Interesting. And then on deletion, save. And then the inheritable is jamming. Pretty messed up that it basically baby ice walls a Digimon. I do like that it's lowest level, but the whole thing about like playing against blue flares, like you're not supposed to put more than 1 Digimon out at a time because they get most of their effect procced by you having more than 1 stack. So this probably is going to be your only stack that's gaining the ice wall effect. This is actually really good. Like I would say this is a 4. Especially the fact that it gives your guys jamming, so you don't have to worry like your opponent has to deal with them on their turn, as opposed to you dying to like a security check or something. Yeah, this is a really good card. I would say this is a 4. Potentially creeping up to a 4.5. I'm kind of upset about this effect. Moving on, Mach Galgamon, Evos 4-3 on level 4. When Digivolving, return one of your opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon to its owner's hand. I guess, I mean, I kind of feel the same way. I feel like this is a little better. I don't know. The effect is underwhelming. Then the heritable is when attacking once per turn if your opponent has 8 or more cards in their hand. Unsuspend this Digimon. That's pretty good. I'll give this a... The unsuspend effect is really strong. This basically lets you kill people. I'm going to give this a 4. And it's literally based solely on the fact that it's called Mach Galgamon. So it fits in the archetype. and it has the unsuspend effect. And I know that the 8 or more cards in your hand is probably going to happen pretty consistently because you're making your opponent draw cards. Like in most cards in this archetype, like force your opponent to draw cards even if they don't want to, and put cards back in their hand from the field. So yeah, this is a 4 solely on the fact that it unsuspends when attacking. It's a very dangerous effect to give to any big stack. On to Metal Greymon. Digging the artwork on this, it looks pretty sick. Looks kind of like a mech pterodactyl something or other with some Mewtwo thighs. Evos for 4 on blue or black. Effect is on play, this Digimon gains Rush for the turn. Then if Digicrossing, choose 2 Digivolution cards under one of your opponent's Digimon and trash them. That's pretty rude. So let's choose any 2 Digivolution cards. That's pretty strong. Like that you could just get rid of any protection effects that your opponent has. Yeah, targeted Digivolution removal is really strong. I'm hoping that they don't start just printing a bunch of that, because that basically will remove the incentive to play stack decks if that becomes too rampant. And then you'll probably see like a shift to decks like this or security control and the like. Material save 2 and Digicross -2 with a blue Greymon and a male Bergermon. I really appreciate that they specified it has to be a blue Greymon so people can stop running the security attack +1 Greymon in this deck. It's not supposed to work like that. They did not intend for that interaction to be a thing, clearly, or they would not have specified color in this card. But yeah, this is a really good card. This is basically power creeped BT10 Metal Greymon, in my opinion. Then the effect is, or the inheritable is, when attacking, if Digimon has Grey Knightsmon, or one of your opponent's Digimon with 3 or less Digivolution cards can't attack until the end of your opponent's turn. So the issue here is, I am pretty sure that Grey Knightsmon is trash. Let me go to Grey Knightsmon and then come back to this card before I give it a final verdict. Grey Knightsmon, Evos for 5. Disgusting. On blue or black. The fact that it Evos for 5 and doesn't even have 13,000 DP is pretty mid. So it's not... most level 6s that Evo for 5 or more usually have 13,000 DP, or they have a really, really good effect. Usually, if they're even remotely playable, that they have one of those two things. The effect is on play, Digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon, then all of your opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon can attack at the end of your opponent's turn. That's a pretty good effect in a vacuum. So this is a blanket effect. It's not just like, oh, all of those dudes that are currently level 4 can attack. This says if you promote a level 4, unless you Evo it, you cannot attack with it on your next turn. This is basically like Ice Wall, but like on level 4s, it just keeps them from attacking. All turns when this Digimon would be deleted or returned to its owner's hand or deck, you may play 1 Metal Greymon and 1 Dark Knightmon from this Digimon's Digivolution cards without paying their memory cost. Then Digicross -2 with a blue Metal Greymon, I like that they specified, and Dark Knightmon. You know, honestly, if they hadn't specified blue in this one and the other Metal Greymon, you could probably build a Twilight deck, like a Dark Knightmon deck with other black cards for the, like you could black Metal Greymon and then like black Greymon, and it'd be like a coherent strategy. As it stands, I think this is super mid. That effect is actual garbage. Like in a vacuum, yes, blanket effect. If this were still BT5 when Ricky Rush was a thing, you could keep them all from attacking. Your opponent couldn't do anything about it. But we're currently in a format where people don't swing. Unless you're playing against specifically Beals that just swarm to the field with a bunch of Impmons, like, people aren't going to swing with something that's not a Mega most of the time. So, I mean, Digivolve 1 is really good, but only De-Evoing 1 is not that good. Yeah, this card's a 1.5. And moving back to this Metal Greymon, I take back what I said about being power creeped. BT10 Metal Greymon, I think this is about the same. I'll give this a 3.5. The fact that the inheritable is basically just blank, because you're never going to play Grey Knightmon in this deck, is kind of hurting it. It'd be, honestly, if they just left this blank, I'd probably give it, nah, I'd still give it a 3.5. I'm treating this as if this doesn't exist because this card's trash. Anyways, on to Z Garurumon, Evos for 4 on a level 5. When digivolving, return one of your opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon to its owner's hand. Then if your opponent has 8 or more cards in their hand, return one of your opponent's level 6 or higher Digimon to its owner's hand. Interesting that it's specifying number of cards despite this not being a Mirage Galgamon card. All turns, once per turn, when an effect adds a card to your opponent's hand. If you have a Tamer in play, return one of your opponent's level 3 Digimon to its owner's hand. So this could potentially bounce 3 Digimon on Evo. In a vacuum, that is very strong. I could see this being very good versus Bloom Lord strategies, where they have just all of the dudes on the field, and you'd be able to bounce 3 things. That'd be pretty strong, honestly. Although they'd probably just be able to poop out everything again on their turn. This is... I'm going to give this a 2.5. Strictly for the fact that this needs more support before it would be good, because this doesn't fit in any archetype. Like this is D-power creeped Victory Greymon. Like this potentially could bounce 3 things, which is really cool, but the fact that if you're a level 5 you just dodge this effect entirely is pretty stupid. So like, if you know your opponent is playing this card, I was going to say something kind of mean. If you know your opponent is playing this card, you can just keep your stuff at level 5 and they literally can't interact with you. Like you just promote a level 5 and just know that you're safe. Yeah, this card's pretty mid. I'm gonna give it a 2.5, because if we ever get like side decks or something, like you could side this if Bloom Lord is popular and like strategies like that in blue decks, Garurumon tribal decks, stuff like that. And if this gets more support and potentially gets something as an inheritable that potentially interacts with level 5s, I could see this being good in the future, but it needs other cards to interact with it. Anyway, I'm moving on. Agumon Expert, Evos. Opponent's turn, once per turn, when your opponent plays a Digimon by revealing a Digimon card with the same level as that Digimon from your hand, place a revealed card at the top of your security stack face down. This is a 1. This is a 1.5. So I'll say it... No, this is a 1. This is a 1. This is a solid 1. This is very, very bad. Like, there are super niche scenarios where you would even be able to get this to go off 1 time. And that's assuming they don't just delete this because it's a 1000 DP rookie. Like, I'm already forgetting this card exists as I move on to the next card. This is a 1. Renamon, Evos on Viximon for 0 or blue or yellow for 1. On play, until the end of your opponent's turn, 2 of your opponent's Digimon with 4000 DP or less can't attack. That's pretty mid. Like, although it being a yellow card means you could reduce their DP first and then play it, which would be kind of cool. Like you could play this off Lord Nightmon, theoretically. And like you could have already reduced their... Yeah, no, this is like meh. Inheritable, your turn. Once per turn, when you use an option card with a cost of 2 or more, gain 1 memory. That's pretty good. This is probably better. This is probably just power creeped. This is a good card for the archetype for sure. So this is Sakuyamon support. I'm gonna give it a 3, and it's basically solely on the inheritable. The on play could come up occasionally. But that's pretty mid. But I'll give this a 3. Terurimon, whatever. Bunny, Evos for 3 on yellow or green. Digivolves for 2 from level 3 if the name contains a Lopmon or Terriermon. That's pretty cool. It has Alliance, which is a new keyword in this set. When this Digimon attacks by suspending one of your other Digimon in play, add the suspending Digimon's DP to this Digimon and gain security attack +1 for the turn. Or for the attack. Interesting. So it's just for the attack, not for the turn. So... Oh, so that means that the Kokomon Tama actually works pretty well in this deck, because you're basically always going to proc that. That's pretty cool. The Alliance is pretty interesting. The only issue is you have to have multiple bodies out, and a lot of decks can really bop multiple bodies. The inheritable is end of attack once per turn if you have another suspended Digimon in play. One of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 2000 DP for the turn. That's super mid. This card's like a... This card's like a 2.5. Like, And that's only because I don't know how good Alliance is going to be. I've heard good things, although I think they might be smoking the copium. Yeah, this is a 2.5 for me. The Inheritable is pretty bad, honestly. Like, end of attack, number 1, is like the worst part of it. Like, minus 2,000 of attack. Yeah. Dude, much rather have that when attacking. That way you could potentially delete something before you attacked into something, or potentially lower something down so you could attack over it. Yeah, I'm gonna give this a 2. This is a 2, yeah. On to Yukomon, is that how you say that? Evos for 2 on Renamon, and Evos for 3 on yellow or blue. Otherwise, on play when Digivolving, one of your opponent's Digimon in play gains blocker. Did I say one of your opponents? One of your Digimon in play gains blocker till the end of your opponent's turn. That's okay. That's not terrible. Inheritable is your turn once per turn. When you use an option card with a cost of 2 or more, one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 2,000 DP for the turn. I'm going to give this a 3. This is a pretty cool effect that it just like, and I think they've been doing this quite a bit where like things aren't just blockers anymore. They're just giving the effect. They're just giving things the ability to gain blocker through various means, like this or like the BT 12 Taikamiya, stuff like that. Yeah, this is a 3. This is okay. Gold Vidramon. Digivolve 2 from Vmon. Why not? Armor Purge. When Digivolving, one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 2,000 DP for the turn. If you have a blue or yellow Tamer in play, or a card with Armor Form in its trait in your trash, one of your opponent's Digimon with 6,000 DP or less can't attack or block until the end of your opponent's turn. Super mid. I'm going to give this... The fact that it's even more Vmon armor tribal support is like the only thing keeping me from rating this lower. I'm gonna give it a 3. You probably make room for this in armor tribal just because of the DP and the random ability to like keep things from attacking, I guess. And the fact that it's a yellow and blue is actually also keeping me from rating it lower, because yellow blue has some pretty cool tools that it has access to, and if it continues to get more cards that are decent, like that could actually be like a viable deck. Daomon, I guess. Evos for 3 on Cubimon, Evos for 4 otherwise. On play when Digivolving. It's interesting these also have on plays. When Digivolving, return one of your opponent's Digimon with 6,000 DP or less to its hand, I guess. And then the Inheritable is when you use an option card that costs 2 or more, one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 2,000 DP for the turn. That's okay. I'll give this a 3. That is a 3. On to Antilamon. Digivolves for 3 from a level 4 2-color green Digimon. So that's actually quite a few Digimon at this point. That's pretty cool. I like the specification there. Hopefully they continue to do stuff like that in the future, because it just opens up deck building quite a bit. Alliance, you know what that does now. Why are these end of attacks? It's interesting. End of attack, if you have 3 or fewer security cards, recover +1. That seems pretty decent. Also end of attack, if you have another suspended Digimon in play, one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 2,000 DP for the turn. Again, I hate that it's end of attack. I don't understand is there a way to Evo into these things as you attack? Is there an option maybe? The fact that it can recover after attacking and it has the Alliance is pretty cool. I'm gonna give this, and it's honestly strictly based solely on the effect itself, not the Inheritable. I'm gonna give this a 4. This is definitely a solid card in its archetype. And then on to whatever that is. Evos for 3 on yellow or blue. This card is also treated as having Sakuyamon in its name. When Digivolving, you may use one option card with a cost of 5 or less from your hand without paying its cost. Pretty sick. It's not color specific. It's so gross. So I've seen people talk about playing this in Blue Flare, and you can literally play the Blue Memory Boost, or the Blue Flare, whatever it's called, Blazing Memory Boost, off of this for free, which is pretty disgusting. And then your turn once per turn, when you use an option card with a cost of 2 or more, you may play 1 Talmon, or 1 yellow or blue level 4 or lower Digimon from this Digimon Digivolution cards without paying its memory cost. So you can play out more bodies. This seems pretty good. I'm going to give this a 4 for sure. Just playing options for free is really strong. Artwork's pretty cool. Purple's my favorite color, so I'm digging that. Yeah, I'm going to give this a 4. And then on to Cherubimon. Digivolves for 3 from a level 5 2-color green Digimon. Once again, I like that specification where it's kind of its own archetype, but at the same time it opens up deck building. Angewomon and Pegasusmon in the background. It's pretty cool. It has Alliance, and then it also has when Digivolving and when attacking. Not once per turn, so you can do both of these in the same turn, which is pretty cool. Or you can do this twice in the same turn. One of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 3,000 DP for the turn for each suspended Digimon you have in play. That's pretty strong. So you Alliance, recover. Yeah, I think that's pretty strong. I'm going to give this a 4. This is definitely a solid card. And I'm actually going to cut it right there. We will start with a green tomorrow. But I do appreciate you guys stopping by. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy seeing this kind of content. Want to come back for more. But until next time, see ya.